This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 208, Stop Guessing How to Sell and Use Market Research, an interview with Corey Hammer.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers. Today, I'm going to talk about how companies fail to understand the drivers that motivate prospects to buy. You know, through luck and pluck, these companies have found some levels of success. Yet they know, and you as sellers know, that they're probably leaving money on the table. Now, if there was only a way that I could know for certain how prospects are thinking, can you see where this is going? In this episode, my guest is Corey Hammer, and Corey's going to show how companies can stop guessing how to sell and to start using market research to know for fact the drivers for selling success. Now, you're not going to need a degree in statistics to understand this. Nope. Corey's going to give you a simple 3-step process that you can use to analyze how your customers are motivated to buy and then project that onto your prospects. So, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Corey. You ready to babble?
Absolutely.
You're in the Sales Babble studio today, Corey. This is a great honor that you came and visited us today.
Well, thank you very much. I'd say it's probably a dubious honor.
You and I met at Aurora Business United, which is a meetup group that meets monthly in Aurora, and I was really excited to meet you because you're a marketing you're a market research expert.
That is correct. I've been working in marketing research for the past 17 years or so across a variety of industries, not-for-profit, consumer packaged goods, pharmaceuticals, and proprietary education.
And what's fun about talking to you is that this is you're really hitting a hot button. It really hits a hot button for me. That far too often businesses really don't completely really understand their marketplace. They don't completely understand the prospective clients they meet. They don't completely understand, many of them, their own clients because they've never really researched that.
And I would add on to that they don't understand potentially the impact of the economics of their decisions. I think one of the big examples in the last 5-10 years has been JCPenney, where their value proposition was discounts. Well, they switched to everyday low prices, and then all of a sudden their sales tanked because their customers wanted a deal. They didn't want to see, oh, it's everyday low prices. No, they wanted to see 10, 20, 30% off of the price. That's what they wanted. And so they went someplace else. And actually, Kohl's is now the place for deals. And Penny's is, to a certain extent, dying.
Yeah, well, it has been for quite a while. But lots of times, I buy stuff from Kohl's. And lots of times, when I need to go shop, but you know what? I'm going to wait a couple weeks because there's a coupon going to be coming with 20% off.
Right.
Oh, look, I got a 30% off one today. How awesome is that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. When I worked in consumer packaged goods, I would do product testing, and it's amazing what you'll get people to do just for a Krispy Kreme donut.
So that's kind of what I want to talk about here today. So if there's anybody out there who's working to like roll out a new product, a new service, maybe they're a startup and they're stepping into an emerging market, how important it is for them to actually like do some research on that. And maybe what I would like to do today, maybe you could share with us some advice on ways that people can approach this.
Sure. I think the first thing that you need to do is look at the data you have already in-house. Any business data you have is worth its weight in platinum. The reason why? You have it. There is no acquisition cost to your business data. You own it already. You have it in-house. You need to understand it, whether it's your sales, whether it's your overheads, whether it's your marketing campaigns that are running, and you can look at conversion and repurchase. Those are things that you can look at in-house. By yourself, you don't need to go anywhere to go get it. You may want to hire someone if you're just a marketing person who's really good at writing copy and managing an omni-channel strategy. You want to hire someone like me who is an analyst and can dive into the data and can parse it apart and help you understand it better. But that's your main cost. And it is so valuable to you as a business owner, whether you are a small, medium, or large capitalized company. If you don't have a handle on your own data, you need to do that today.
So let's dig a little bit more into that. So what kind of data, what kind of relationships within that data do you commonly zero in on?
Well, I'll start with the marketing campaign data. The first thing there is
if they have marketing.
If they have marketing data, because that's one of the main areas that I do a lot of work in. The first thing there is you have ads that go out. These ads have themes, they have copy, they have creative. You may have an idea of what you're trying to say, but is what you're trying to say working or not working? You may have ads that have different ways of saying it. Different conversion rates based on channel in which it's put into. I can help you understand that through statistics. And that's sort of basic information you can use to say, okay, this is the kind of ad that works well in this channel. Don't do any other ads like that. Or I put this ad into this channel. I don't see direct impact here, but when I pull that ad out, all of a sudden these other channels lose conversion.
I think what's interesting about digital marketing is that it's different than back in the day when people were doing postcards and flyers on windshields and bus ads.
Mm-hmm.
Pay-per-click things and Facebook ads. A lot of that stuff is measurable. You can see whether or not you're getting a conversion or not. But what you're saying is lots of people, even though a lot of people do that, they don't even look at the data.
They may not. They may not look at the data, or they may not look at the data in the right way. They may just look at it on a channel-by-channel basis. People today do not receive information through one medium anymore. It's an omni-channel experience that they're going after. They're watching TV. They're on their phone. They're on their computer. They're on Facebook. They're on Twitter. They're on Instagram. They're on Snapchat, or they're in an app. And a lot of the freemium apps have ads.
They do.
And so you can advertise across all of these channels to reach your audience. Some messages are going to work better than others. Some formats are going to work better than others. But you need to have an understanding of the totality of your campaign across all your channels so that you can assess, if I advertise here, do I see an impact or a halo effect across my other channels?
Right. What other data relationships are you looking for other than marketing?
So you can look at internal sales data.
Sales
is an important one. What is selling in what markets? That'll tell you how you should handle your logistics. So let's say, for example, you are a salon. You have multiple locations throughout an area. Is there one area where you sell more hair product to men than in other areas? How do you allocate your supply chain to meet the demand in the right way? Are there products that you carry that no one buys? You should know these things because you don't want to have products sitting on your shelves that expires. That's a loss to you.
Yep. It's not making you money.
No, it's not making
inventory. No.
It's not making. Now I'm going to say I'm not a supply chain guy at all. I'm a marketing insights professional, but these are things that any business person should know what their logistics look like, what supply they're managing.
So the first one was look at your internal data. What's the next?
Next most valuable is your customers.
Your customers.
If you haven't heard this before, 80-20 rule. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers.
Yep.
You need to have a very deep understanding of what drives that 20% of your customers to come.
The thing is, that scares people. They're like, "Oh no, I have all my eggs in in a basket of 20%, and if I lose that one client, that means layoffs."
And here's the thing: maybe you'll lose that one client, but here's the thing: let's say it's the other 19 out of 100 are still going to be talking about you. They're still going to talk to their friends and their colleagues about you. And that's important. you want to know what drives them to keep coming back to you. If you know that, then you know who at least your core customers are and what drives them to purchase.
So how can I find out what's driving them?
So
To
the
purchase,
easiest
to
thing
keep
to do,
coming back.
the easiest thing to do is a customer experience measurement tool. That could be something as simple as
Customer experience measurement tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been called customer satisfaction.
Customer sat. Yep.
Customer
yep,
sat.
Yeah.
But it's not just about are they satisfied? What is their experience? You need to focus on what it is that you're delivering to the customers. Are you delivering what you think you're delivering to the customers, or are you delivering something for them that's different?
So why don't you give us 3 or 4 questions that you would ask in this?
So the first question is, how satisfied are you with your experience today, if it's a transactional, or how satisfied are you with the brand?
All right.
And then depending on what kind of product you're offering, generally I would say, so how happy are you with your service today? And I don't ask it as I want to ask these very high level sort of quick impact.
Yep.
People should be, if you have to think about an answer, you're getting the wrong answer from your respondents. And the reason for that, back in the 70s, I'm a psychologist, by the way, so I'm going to speak a little bit now on marketing and consumer behavior and human information processing. So please bear with me. If you have to think about an answer, especially about something that you're doing, you are likely not giving what's actually going on in your head. A psychologist back in the 70s did a huge study and asked people, how do they read? And when they looked at actual behavioral data, observing them and watching them, what they said was completely different from what they actually did. So if you force people to think about an answer, if they can't just give you a quick and snappy answer, you're not getting good feedback. So if you're going to do this yourself, focus on the things. Can you answer this quickly? How happy are you with the service you got today? How do you feel like this need was met today?
That's a yes. That's a yes, no.
And it can be a yes, no. It can be a yes, no answer, or you can be how happy are you, and you can get a little bit more scaled measurement there.
What about? See, I'm of the notion of like, what did you like about the experience of this product?
That's another.
And what don't you like about the experience of this product?
No, that's the thing you have to be careful with, though, because that unstructured data is great and it will help you a lot understanding your business. But if you want quick feedback, if you're just wanting to get something out there quick, it's transactional. You want to stay away from too much because it does take time to reply. You're going to lose people on that.
You mean transactional? Like I'm going to email them a.
That's a really well, transactional means about the experience you had in the moment. So everybody goes to the grocery store.
Right. I just made a purchase as a transaction. I just want to know about this transaction.
Correct. And so everybody if you look at the bottom of your next grocery bill, your next receipt from the grocery store, you'll see a thing on there. Please take our survey. Here's your code. That's a transactional survey. They want to know about your experience in store from that transaction. There's another kind of survey called a relational survey, which is really more measuring the long term.
Like I'm thinking in terms of, let's say you have clients, who constantly keep coming back and buying stuff from you, or kind of in more of a B2B space.
And that would be more of a relational survey. It's hard for B2B, especially. You do not want to bother your clients or your customers. You want to minimally invade their space with questions about how you're doing. And for that, you would want to do more of that.
Really? I don't know if I agree with that. I think people appreciate the fact that I called you up and I said, hey, Corey, I just reached out to you. I haven't chatted with you for a few months. I just wanted to see how things were going. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you.
That's still a relational survey. A transactional survey
You're darn certain it is. I know that.
Yeah. And you don't want to do so. A transactional survey is every transaction you do, you get some sort of feedback tool in there. A relational survey is more along the lines of how things have been for the last few months.
Yeah.
And you're measuring the totality of their experience over that time frame.
Oh, yeah. Or the last year.
Yeah. So that's a little bit different than a transactional survey. Both are important. in a B2C space, transactional surveys give you a lot of very fine-grained data that you can parse and sift to see how is your business going over time. You might be able to very quickly identify issues that are cropping up. So let's say all of a sudden you had a massive dip in what is a key metric for your business. So for example, let's say you are a restaurant and all of a sudden you start seeing pretty big dips in rating, happiness, service needs more improvement. You see that more.
Right.
That's a red flag for you to work with your staff to say, okay, what's going on here? Why? And getting more feedback on why the service is decreasing.
Right. That makes sense.
But if you're a B2B client,
so let's say I collect all this data. What's the third thing I would then do?
well, you need all that information. So the third thing you need, the information in and of itself is not that useful. It can give you some things, but you need to understand what are the key drivers of satisfaction. What are the key drivers of multiple purchases? And
so what kind of drivers? What are common drivers that you might see?
It would depend on the business, but when I've been in education, one of the drivers obviously is faculty that are able to communicate well. Drivers for restaurants, service and food are big ones. Sometimes you're going to find unusual things that crop up in terms of what drives satisfaction. For example, I did a project once where cleanliness of restrooms was super important to returning there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was not a part of the value proposition at all, and it was such a little thing, but making sure that the facility, and it was more of a marker for they needed the facility to look nice. It wasn't just the bathrooms. You needed to go in. We actually parsed it apart by going in and looking at the facilities, taking a look who was rated high, rated low, and it was more than. And we came to the conclusion, stepping beyond the actual data itself, to say, look, it's about maintenance of the facility in and of itself, not the bathrooms. That was just a key touch point that was super on people's minds.
But if you hadn't asked them, you'd have never known that.
Right. We would have never known that.
How does this tie into value proposition?
So there is a management and operations tactic strategy called value engineering.
Okay.
Your business has a value proposition. Here's the thing I do well and differently, and I own from other businesses. And you're going to have a key set of activities around your value proposition that you need to do to deliver against it.
And then it also says, and it provides you this kind of value.
Yeah, right. Now that's going to be your positioning and your need benefit statement. So for person X, product X is the thing that does X, Y, and Z, and it's a benefit for them, a direct benefit to that person.
Yeah. See, in my mind, this is how the value proposition is. I help these kinds of people in this kind of niche who have these kinds of problems by providing this service that has this benefit and this other benefit.
Yep. And that translates to how you position your brand and how you go to market with your creative and your copy.
Yeah, and your pitch,
exactly.
Your cold call, when you're working on the exhibit floor and you're talking to people, all of that is based on that. All your marketing copy is based on that.
Everything is based on it. But value engineering itself is what is the value you're delivering. So how do your activities and your spend align with what your customers and consumers in general value? Are you spending your money appropriately? Is there an activity you're doing that's a part of your value proposition, but it does not drive purchase or repurchase?
This is really important.
Because if that's the case,
yes,
you are wasting money.
Yes.
It's a part of your value proposition. If it's critical for the product to operate, you need to do it, but you need to figure out how to slim your budget, how to slim that spend there, and allocate your spend to the things that are driving the purchase of your product. And that's where marketing research can come in.
So I want to be clear here. Sometimes, I want to make sure I totally get you here, okay? Sometimes you're providing a value to a marketplace. That's pretty clear. But as far as the marketplace is concerned, it's not the most important issue that they have. It's fourth, fifth, sixth on the list, which is why deals always get stuck.
Yes.
Right? Clients tell you, prospects tell you, yeah, I like what you got here, but I'm really not going to buy right now. Well, you just told me you bought. I don't get it.
Right.
It's because, is that what you're saying?
It's part of what I'm saying, but it's a little bit more than that. There is a thing that drives what they. So you do these. Let's say you do 5 activities, and you're spending a lot of money on.
Who's you?
Your business.
The seller.
The seller.
The business is okay.
The business has a product that does 5 things that the consumer can see. And they're all core to your value proposition. You have these 5 features of the product. They deliver a certain benefit. And you're spending a lot of money and capital working on feature benefit 1. But when you look at how consumers value your product and value other products, the thing that drives purchase of your product isn't feature 1, it's feature 3. And maybe you're spending a lot of money on feature 3, but you've got feature 1, which doesn't drive.
It could be, yeah. And that's worth knowing. Now, feature 1 could be, a new product that you're rolling out. So you're doing a lot of investment. That's why you don't have a lot of market share yet. But it may also be something that you've been doing for habit for years. And
you believe it's critical as a business.
But it ain't.
Right. And those are things you need to know, because companies that succeed in the marketplace are companies that understand their consumers, understand the benefits the consumers seek and need, and are able to deliver against those and not spend money on the things that don't matter.
Gotcha.
And so where you can trim budget on things that don't matter to your customers is going to be more money that you can invest in the things that do matter, or invest, for example, look at Toys R Us. I have a good friend who works for them.
It's a struggling company.
It's a struggling company. They are likely closing their market. Back in 2005, they had a leveraged buyout. Instead of being able to invest to cut a niche out in the marketplace against Amazon and budget sellers like Walmart, they've been servicing the debt. They have been unable to develop a competitive niche against these because they spent money on other things. Now, I'm going to say, first of all, Amazon was disruptive. It wasn't expected. So there's that. But as an example of a company that is going to likely fail because they weren't able to allocate their spend against things that matter, that's a really good example.
Yeah. And in fact, Amazon's even shown, right, with the purchase of Whole Foods, that there's value in brick and mortar.
Correct.
And Toys R Us has got brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But they could leverage that somehow. I don't know. I'm not in that business.
Right.
But you can see that there's a possibility here, and they've not.
But that also goes to value engineering as well. How much do you need to spend? How much do they need to spend on their online platforms in order to have at least a platform to compete nominally against Amazon and use that to drive business to the brick and mortars as much as possible?
Yeah.
Well, because as of right now, Amazon owns the toy market basically.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to go on your phone or on your computer and do all your Christmas shopping online. You don't need to go to a store. You don't have to drive anywhere. And as a consequence, Toys R Us lost business.
Right. So let's go through this here. You look at the data that you have already within the market, and then you reach out to your customers, especially the 20% that provide 80% of your business, and actually do market research on them.
Do market research on all your customers, because if you know what is different between your high purchasers and low purchasers, how can you convert your low purchasers into high purchasers? What is missing for them? Is there some sort of red thread that you can tie through? Is there something they're just missing about your product that the 20% see?
And then the third thing is then factor out those commonalities from all that data and understand what the driver selection process is.
Yep.
For people purchasing which is what you would then use for acquiring new customers.
That's the first step. If you're a small or medium-sized business where you have your budget needs to be on your operations and your working media, those are highly cost-effective things to do. If you're a larger business or you have a larger marketing budget, then you can start reaching out to the broader market itself, what your whole audience. You can start then understanding and segmenting your audience into who are your primary prospects, who are your secondary, and who are the people we'd like to have them, but we're going to align our business against these people.
What if you're a startup?
At that point, startups...
What if you're a startup and you don't have any clients? You don't have any...
And
you have an idea. You may even have a product or service kind of like, a minimum viable product kind of like built.
Yeah. Then that's a little tougher because the kinds of things you're looking for, maybe you would want more consumer feedback at that point. You may be just as well off looking at the marketplace. So if you have a local public library, a lot of libraries have information databases. There's one I use called A to Z database.
I've heard of A to Z.
And you can look up companies and what they do. If you have access to D&B Hoovers, you can use that to look at press releases from businesses. Get on to something like marketwatch.com or Seeking Alpha. Look up these companies. If they're publicly traded, they'll be on there, and you can see what they're doing. You can see their press releases. That's the kind of market research you can do as a startup to look and see who's your big competition, at least, who's your little competition. Go on the App Store and see what kind of apps are being sold if you're trying to publish a minimally viable product on the iPhone or an app. Who's doing what and where? These are very easy things to do as a startup. I've actually worked with a couple startups now to help them align their product. One was they wanted to develop personas for initial use in the machine learning tool. So they have they'll answer a set of questions.
Yeah.
The personas then are just there to kind of seed the choices.
Yeah.
But the machine learning tool is the real value proposition that they have. But rather than have a blank slate and drive their customers nuts with irrelevant choices, they've now narrowed in. They're able now to narrow in on some of the things at least, and then they can decide from there.
Yeah.
So...
How can people find you online?
Okay, so online, you can find me at talismaninsights.com. That's TALISMANINSIGHTS.com. It's a long name. There is a story to it. If anybody ever wants to hear that story, I can tell you the story about it. You can find me online there, or you can just search for Talisman Insights.
I promise you, I'll put the link in the show notes.
Oh, awesome! Thank you. Yes,
Corey, thanks for coming to the Sales Babble studio today. This has been a very, very interesting conversation.
Well, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate it. I love to talk.
Looking at your existing customers and understanding how they made their buying decision and the things that motivated them to join you. It's going to provide clear guidance to other prospective customers that you've not yet talked to. So I really like Corey's advice on starting there because they're easy to talk to. And people, especially your customers, are more than happy to tell you, to tell all about their lives and the things that are working for them and what's not. The other thing I thought was very telling, this is something that we've never ever talked about here in Sales Babble, was that Corey recommended going to the A to Z database and the D&B Hoovers database that you can find at many public libraries. I was working for a client a couple of years ago. Was it last year? 2 years ago. And they were selling to libraries, and I was figuring out their cold calling process. And I called a number of libraries, and I learned all about this, that there is a huge asset out there that is totally 100% free. And if your library doesn't have these databases, others do, and most librarians are uber super nice, and they'll let you just go in there and peruse through these databases. So that's a great way to better understand the competition. And MarketWatch, that one website that he mentioned, I've been watching MarketWatch. I've been following MarketWatch for probably 15 years. To connect with Corey and his website, you can find that in the show notes at www.salesbabble.com/208. As I mentioned last week, come support Sales Babble and donate and maybe become a Patreon subscriber. That would be absolutely terrific. If you got a question or a comment, don't hesitate to reach out and click the Babble Me button. And most certainly share this with your friends. Word of mouth is the number one way the podcast gets shared. If you could do that, that would be great. And that's about it. Thanks for listening. Until next week, take care and have a highly successful and profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.